Hey guys, welcome to the Watch Your Style channel and thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm extremely excited today to share with you my latest acquisition. This has been a grail piece for me for some time now. This of course is the Rolex GMT Master 2, nicknamed the Batman or the Batgirl. The reference number is 126710BLNR. And this is the latest generation of the Batman with the updated caliber and the Jubilee bracelet. Now in 2021, Rolex released this watch on an Oyster bracelet as well. I actually got this watch pre-owned. For those of you who follow my channel know that I had being the key word, an Explorer 1 reference 214270, and I actually traded this watch with one of my good watch buddies for an unbelievable deal. I won't disclose the specifics of that deal, but let's just say I got this watch for essentially retail price. So I couldn't say no. It was a great deal, and I had been lusting after this piece for a long time. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and here we are. So this is, of course, a GMT watch, so it's capable of tracking 2 time zones as well as a 3rd time zone with the bi-directional rotating ceramic bezel. Let's just go over some quick dimensions. The diameter of this watch is 40 millimeters. It's 12.2 millimeters thick and 48 millimeters lug to lug. And then the lug width is 20 millimeters, tapering down to 16 millimeters. The case material is oyster steel with kind of this maxi style case. And then the dial color you can see is this black lacquer dial. The indexes of this watch are finished with applied white gold. And of course, as I mentioned, there's a 24-click bi-directional Monochrome ceramic bezel. The lume on this watch is really good. It is Rolex's Chromolite applied on the hands and the hour markers. The water resistance is 100 meters. However, this watch does feature a trip lock crown, so there's a good chance that it's a little bit more water resistant than the stated 100 meters. The bracelet is an oyster style, or oyster steel rather, Jubilee bracelet with these with the 5-link design. It features an oyster clasp with a 5mm easy link extension system, as you can see right there. Allows you to adjust the bracelet 5mm on the fly. The movement in this watch is the Rolex caliber 3285. It features a Paraflex shock absorber, which has a bearing rotor versus a jeweled staff for more shock resistance. It has a Chronergy escapement for added power reserve. This watch has an extended power reserve of 70 hours versus 48 hours on the outgoing 3100 series of Rolex calibers. And then it also features a Rolex Parachrome blue hairspring for additional shock and magnetic resistance. So this is a true GMT movement. You can independently move the hour hand and set the local hour hand. And of course, it's a COSC chronometer certified as well as a superlative certified watch. So it runs within very stringent accuracy standards of -2 to +2 seconds per day. It of course features a screw down crown with crown guards, and then you can see it features kind of these beefy lugs. And then the finishing on this watch is alternating, sort of an alternate brushed and polished finish. You can see the center of the links are polished, the outer flanks are brushed, and then the case, the top of the lugs are brushed, and then the sides are polished. It has a very plain Rolex case back, as you would come to expect from the vast majority of Rolex watches. And this watch, although I purchased it pre-owned, it came with all the goodies. My watch buddy actually purchased this from a jeweler, and when he purchased this watch, it was actually unworn, virtually new. So it came with all the fixins. So it came with extra links. It came with the hang tag, superlative tag. Also comes with the warranty, and then the instruction manual for the GMT Master 2 as well. I thought it'd be interesting to go over a brief history of the GMT Master 2 simply because it just has such a very rich and long history. And it has gone through many iterations, but the design ethos has stayed very classic and very true to its roots throughout the years. A brief history, as part of a partnership with Pan Am, Rolex released the first GMT Master in 1955. So quite a long time ago. This first reference was called the 6542. And then in 1959, the reference 1675 came out and ran until about 1980 with many variations, the Blueberry being one of them. And then from 1980 to 1988, we had the reference 16750, which is kind of a transitional model. It featured a quick set date and then an upgraded caliber 3075. And then from 88 to 89, we had the reference 16700, which was the last reference of the GMT Master. From 1982 to 1988, we actually had the first GMT Master 2, and it featured a Coke bezel and was nicknamed the Fat Lady, and featured the first independent jump hour hand. Reference 16710 ran from 89 to 2007 and featured a slimmer case due to the new caliber 3185. And then the first GMT Master 2 with the Monochrome bezel, the reference 116710 LN, ran from 2007 to 2019. And then the first bi-color ceramic bezel, of course, the first Batman, was released in 2013 and ran until 2019, the 116710 BLNR. And then the reference 116719 BLRO, which was the first ceramic Pepsi, had a comeback in white gold. And then we had this example, the 126710 BLNR, which was offered on the Jubilee, and this was released in 2018, and then also received the caliber 3285 upgrade as well, and slightly slimmer lugs. So that's just a very brief history of the GMT Master 2. You can see that this watch is just very striking in its appearance. It's very beautiful. I really enjoy the black and the blue ceramic bezel. I do believe that the black and blue is a little bit dressier, a little bit more versatile versus the Pepsi, which is one of the most sought after Rolex models. I actually enjoy the fact that this watch is a little, less hyped up and is a little bit more elegant and versatile. Now, there's been rumors that when Rolex first came out with the GMT Master 2, or first came out with the Batman rather, they weren't able to get the bezel color right. It was really hard for them to manufacture a red and a blue bezel, so they actually went with the black and blue. I think they started out with an all blue bezel, and then they dyed half of it black. But in order for Rolex to manufacture a blue and a red bezel, it's actually a much more involved process. I think they actually have to start dye the red first, and then dye the blue, and then each needed to have a hint of the other color in each. So it results in a bezel where both of the colors are a lot more muted. Looking at the classic references of the GMT Master 2 Pepsi, I do feel that the modern Monochrome versions, the colors just seem a little off to me. I've heard there's different iterations, different versions. Certain versions have a brighter blue. And then just in general, I feel that there are a lot of variations of the Pepsi. You have the white gold, you have the stainless steel, you have the Jubilee, you have the oyster bracelet. There's now meteorite dials. It's a bit too saturated with all of the different variations. That's another thing that I really enjoy about the Batman. There's really only one. Of course, you have the previous generation with the older movement on the oyster bracelet, but there is only one stainless steel Batman that's black and blue, that's extremely classic, and that's extremely recognizable, and I think this is a future classic, guys. So let's talk about how the Batman wears on the wrist. Let me go ahead and pop it on. So I have a 6.5 inch wrist in circumference, and you can see it wears pretty well. Because of its relatively short lug-to-lug dimensions, you can see that it doesn't overhang on my wrist. And then due to that very thin profile of 12.2, this watch can do sport duty and it can do dress duty. I think that Jubilee bracelet is definitely a lot more dressy than your average Oyster bracelet. And I should also mention that the Jubilee bracelet is more comfortable to wear. You know, it has more, I don't know, ventilation, more articulation, and it's just a very comfortable watch to wear on your wrist. And I think it provides more comfort day to day as well, just due to that extra breathability, extra lightness, and just the way that it feels on wrist. But of course, this watch can also be paired with very casual outfits as well. It's really kind of a one and done watch, in my opinion. I feel that it kind of does it all, you know? It has the travel feature, it has a date, it has the GMT function. I feel that this watch is rugged enough you can kind of, you know, bash it around. It has that added water resistance for peace of mind, the shock resistance, you know, magnetic anti-magnetism. But it's also kind of dressy enough where it wouldn't be totally out of place in a business meeting. So if I were to have just one Rolex for the rest of my life, if you gave me a choice, I think I would go with this particular watch. I would go with the GMT Master 2. And I would actually go with the Batman. Despite, you know, all of the hype and all the history around the Pepsi, I do believe that this is a better all-arounder. And I would take this over a Daytona. You know, call me crazy, guys, but the Daytona, to me, it doesn't have some of the functionality that this watch offers. It doesn't have the date window. It doesn't have the independently adjustable hour hand with the GMT function. You know, I don't really use chronographs a whole lot. I think I would prefer the functionality of the GMT Master 2 over a chronograph, just from a practical standpoint. And I may go so far as to say that I would choose this piece over the Submariner as well. Now, the Submariner is obviously a very classic piece. There's no denying that. And it does have the date function, and it does have the additional water resistance at 300 meters. But if I were to choose one watch between those two, I would still go with this one, just because it's more practical, you know? If I'm traveling across time zones, I don't have to stop the seconds hand. I can just pop the crown out one position. I can move, independently adjust the hour hand without having to stop the seconds hand and compromise the accuracy of the watch. In my book, I think that this really does kind of do it all. It also has the amazing legibility and lume. It's easier to read in the dark. I don't think I demonstrated this, but here's the bidirectional rather bezel, 24 clicks, very smooth action. It's actually very quiet, so you're not going to get a whole lot of noise like you would on the Rolex Mariner. This is actually pretty useful for timing as well. If you're not using it as a second time zone function, you can actually rotate it to the around the current minute hand. It doesn't hit it exactly because it doesn't have, you know, 120 clicks. But you can actually use it to track elapsed time and see how many minutes have passed. So that's another reason why I think this watch is a great all-arounder. Does this watch have any downsides? I would say, you know, it definitely is a bit of a chunkier watch. It's probably not the dressiest piece that you could buy, but I'm not the type of guy to, you know, suit up on a day-to-day basis. And then maybe the other downside is just how recognizable this watch is. It's definitely a very sought after watch right now. It's trading for upwards of double retail, which is crazy because this watch retails for only about $9,000. And I say only lightly, you know, just in Rolex dollars, that's relatively affordable. So it's definitely a bit of a target, you know. When I'm traveling, I probably don't feel as comfortable with this on my wrist as I would with, you know, my Grand Seiko SBGN 003, which I also reviewed on this channel. That's a great watch, and it's very, very low key, very under the radar. So in closing, guys, I really enjoy this piece. I'm just ecstatic, and I'm really shocked that I was actually able to acquire my Grail piece. I think I actually saw this piece on someone else's wrist about a year or so ago, and I was like, wow, that guy must be a baller. And I'm really thrilled that I was able to acquire this. One of the great parts of this hobby is that you get to meet a lot of cool people. The watch buddy of mine, and we actually did a previous trade before. That's kind of how we met, and so I've gotten access to cool people and obviously cool watches that I otherwise would not have if I wasn't fully vested in this hobby. It's just really hard to acquire this piece right now, and that's a shame because it is a great watch. But some people could see it as an advantage because it does make this piece a bit more desirable. It does help the value of the watch if that's important to you. At the price that I got it for, I pretty much already made a few grand walking out the door. Hopefully I gave you guys a good idea of what this watch is all about. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't got the chance to, please just subscribe to my channel. Hit that like button, hit that bell button to be notified of new videos. Drop me some comments below. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. As always, thanks for tuning in. This is Watch Your Style. Take care, guys.